in terms of like practice, this question is really important, right? Because time and time again, women have heard men say that a certain level of reciprocity is important when a man considers a relationship. So, my question to you is, how does a woman maintain a certain level of distance while still giving reciprocity in order to determine whether that man is actually a viable candidate or not?
Be available for him.
Nas?
That's the simple answer is when he's available, be available for him. That's like so men, one of the things we value more than money is our time.
Do you
So
really?
when we say, okay, hey, Wednesday, let's go hang out, me and you. Be available Wednesday. Make sure nothing comes up. We see that and we're like, okay, so she's digging me. And if we're not having like if the conversations if we're not getting much conversation from you, we will keep talking to figure out exactly what's gonna make you talk. So you give just a little bit. Men are we're great at this, and we've done it tonight. We've hit you with a oh yeah. Well, y'all went back and forth. Just the four of you went back and forth for probably about 12 minutes, give or take. And all we did was like, oh shit, what?
So let me take it like one step further because I
Okay,
hear what you're saying, but I think there's still a little bit of disconnect in terms of practice, right?
okay, okay.
Marcus, I'm gonna let you answer right after him. I just wanna follow this up, right? There that's still not necessarily reciprocity because I think there are plenty of women that can make themselves available that are not necessarily engaging, that don't necessarily reciprocate interest, that aren't necessarily from what I've heard of men, are showing up to like maybe have ulterior motives other than like who you are. They're either in it for your money or for the dinner dates or for a meal or whatever, right? So there's still a little bit of disconnect in the advice you're giving. So I need you to be a little bit more
Ab-
specific.
Absolutely. So flip it on the guy. What are we really good at? We're great at asking questions. So when you make yourself available, look at him right in the eyes when you're talking to him. When he says something, say, oh, whatever your natural response is, then follow it up with a question. Instead of talking about you, follow it up with a question about him while looking at him in the face. Then he's going to reply. You're going to say, "Oh, wow, that's awesome to know," or whatever your natural response is. Then you can give a little tidbit. Don't give a lot of information. Give a little tidbit about yourself regarding the question you asked, and then follow it up with to lead into another question. Does this conversation sound very familiar on how men talk to women? I just want to know. Does this sound like? Oh yeah, no, my mom lives there. What do you think about such and such?
Okay, so what you're saying is correct. I can't really argue with what you're saying, AP. But check this out.
Mhm.
This remember we differed on this one key thing a while ago when we was talking about this is to her reciprocity question. So I think for the way different men receive reciprocity might be different because I remember seeing a lot of episodes back that if you are trying to withhold sex from me, I won't just be like, oh, she's a wife because she's doing that. In fact, it'll make me feel like you're trying to play a game, and then I will play the game with you. And remember, I was saying I'm not judging nobody for sex on the first night or none of that stuff. You remember this conversation?
I
And
do.
we
Vaguely.
and we disagreed on this point. I don't know how many other men feel the same way I feel about that, but so it would seem as though I'm pouring into you and then you keeping from me. So to her reciprocity question, it would be a mercurial area. It's kind of like person specific. In general, though, I think the advice you're giving is great advice. But where's the line at where it goes from she not that interested because she's not giving me the same type of result or attention that other women
Energy.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's the
so
question I think she has.
so then okay. I'm glad you said that. So the next piece of this is if you let's say you go out to lunch. I'm just using this as an example. You go out to lunch. Tip a good man typically will pay. Offer to pay. for both, not you, for both. He'll likely turn it down, but he'll say, "Oh, okay," and then bring up, "Hey, when's the next time we're gonna hang out?" It's all in the details. It's the little detailed stuff, and that's the thing that men really latch onto. You're now learning about him, and you can learn his true intentions. But the more he divulge, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this: the more he divulges to you, the more he pours out of who he really is, the more he's digging you.
Let me ask y'all this, because
I'm
Jamal
just saying.
Jamal Clark brought up a point, and I'm gonna read what he said. He said, "Notice what," because I was about to ask y'all this question, but he kind of framed it for me. He said, "Notice what mistaken is saying. Feel, feel, feel. Fathers, make sure she operates on no, no, no. Keep putting that in her head." So one of the things that I was gonna say, like women and men, we move through the world a little differently
Mhm.
than each other, right? We can agree with that. Like with babies, they experience the world by putting things, in their mouth. That's the way they explore, that's the way they learn, right? So as women, a lot of times we experience the world through feelings. So when you are trying to teach a young lady, like, in high school, like when you start really, liking boys, I guess it's earlier now, like in middle school, but like in in high school, when you're really like having your crushes or about to go away to college and you haven't had any experience yet, what is it that you teach your girls? Because you can't say, you know, don't operate off your feelings. I mean, you can say that. Don't get me wrong. You can say that. But what is an actionable step that you can have, I guess, teach your girls what to do with their feelings along with the other stuff? Because just saying don't operate with your feelings isn't going to work, because that is innate in us. But what would you say to your girls to, I guess, to kind of teach them, like, I know you're going to feel X, Y, and Z, and that's okay, but make sure you do, ABC, things like that, because I
the
think that part is going to be helpful.
the dopest thing that I personally appreciate with women, y'all prefer honesty. Y'all prefer honesty. And that doesn't start when you get older. That's something that you guys, I think, that's kind of innate in you. You got to be honest with the girls. You got to be open, and you got to have first open dialogue. Like with my daughter, we have open dialogue. And with that, I can be as bluntly honest as I need to be to help her understand a point or a situation. And then from there, she can use her feelings, because that's one thing I don't like about y'all, is that y'all do get in y'all feelings, but make a rational and logical assessment and conclusion. The number one thing is having the conversation. Like, we have to be open to having the real conversation, not just keep your legs closed and close off your feelings. No, 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 no.
Mhm.
Nope, that's not what we did. You want to know what my daughter and I did? We actually sat and watched a video of exactly what chlamydia and gonorrhea was. We sat and watched a video of exactly what herpes looks like. Like, these are real conversations and real videos that we sat and watched. Were they uncomfortable? Yes, they were very uncomfortable. But we
So,
have to be open and honest, because you ladies and girls just value honesty above. It's insane to me how much y'all value real honesty, regardless of how bad it is. And sometimes y'all react poorly, but you come back and like, thank you for being honest.
Mhm.
so one of the things that I'm doing to answer with my daughter right now, right? And I actually did this with my wife early in the relationship, right? Um, the reason I'll argue with women, or pretty much argue in a relationship, is based off of me teaching somebody how to identify when they in their feelings, and how to take a step back and then work the problem out, and make sure that the way they felt is the same with answer. Like, so with my daughter, right? She wants cook. She
I'm
wants a.
stealing that from you, by the way. I like what you were saying right there.
It's all yours. Look, she want Oreo cookies, right? If she don't get an Oreo cookie, she start throwing a fit. Now, if she throw a real fit, I could break a cookie in half and give her the cookie. But if I can convince her to calm down and say please, she can get the whole cookie. Now, she has to work through her emotions and get to the point where she's making a logical decision on how to get the cookie. She can bargain for it. She can talk me into it. But the emotional response is I'm negatively rewarding that. And then I'll positively reward her thinking through the process. So I plan on doing that with just different things throughout each stage of her life so she can understand when she's in her emotions and how that negatively affects the outcome of whatever she's trying to do.
I
I
love
like
that.
that. I love it.
I like that.